3, 2, 1. Da, 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 da. Hi, I'm Euclidean Vision. Welcome to this Overwatch lore discussion video where we'll be speculating on the upcoming BlizzCon cinematic, which is most likely to be centered around McCree and possibly the new hero at Route 66, but other options are always on the table, especially as Blizzard like to mess with us at times. So I'm going to leave McCree to the end. I've got a video to follow this one very soon, speculating on his future in the narrative in far greater detail than I will be doing so in this video. Today I'm going to be speculating on the nature of the Overwatch cinematics, possible events to see within the McCree cinematic particularly, and how these all could affect the story in the near future, rather than, say, the end of the story, for instance. So, regarding the cinematics themselves, first off, I'd like to discuss how they might do them. Are they going to do anything new, different, exciting? I think there's a possibility. I also did a Hero 29 speculation video recently, in which I posited at the end the idea of them releasing 2 characters at least at this BlizzCon to bring them up to the 30th hero at BlizzCon, or for several other extenuating circumstances. So if that were to be the case, could we also see, as we have seen this before, multiple cinematics? Even if it's just 2, one being like with the Junkertown plan short that was animated in-game and then that was released alongside Rise and Shine, which is a fully animated one, or if they'll do 2 fully animated ones, one longer than the other. There's plenty of options there. Could either of these shorts, if there are 2, for instance, could one of them be used to, instead of introducing a new character or expanding on an existing one, could it be used to progress the overarching plot? Something like Recall, or something that stems from the recent change to the Route 66 map, the possible power core of some nature that was stored on the payload there. There seem to be several iterations of this kind of item having occurred across the Overwatch story thus far in Train Hopper. So McCree has already come across possibly one of these very same things. There's very possibly one in Infiltration seen being handed to Katyavoskaya, and a similar technology could be what is being used to power the Mecha Mechs. That is obviously unsure going forward, but it could offer the Overwatch world a MacGuffin, or a special material like kryptonite or adamantium, or something that serves a purpose in world that anybody can use and it has like a set purpose. Is that a thing going forward? Who knows? It well could be just the avenue into the new character. It could be something much grander going forward. If we're looking at the overall plot, could we see the rise of Talon, if you would, them actually setting out what their purpose is wholesale from this point, releasing possibly the 2 remaining members of the Inner Council. Maybe that'd be pretty cool in my book, but that's obviously to be yet to be seen. Could they use either of these cinematics, or even just a single one? Could they use it to open up for a TV series? Could they use it to release a new sort of game mode or an expansion for Overwatch? These are all possible. That gets really convoluted into coming up with ideas for. So, all of these are possible avenues forward. If we are to have multiple cinematics, who could we see? It's most likely going to be, in that instance, we will still have a McCree cinematic that will probably introduce a new hero, and then if we were to get other characters in another cinematic, I can see it being Symmetra and Lucio to maybe introduce Sanjay, or someone like Zenyatta. So all the characters that haven't got much lore behind them, really, that haven't got any sort of personal conflict going forward. I can totally see Zenyatta going to visit Junkertown, for instance, to try and see what the Junkers are all about, and oh wow, you could do loads from there. You could even introduce the Junker Queen. That could be Blizzard's sideswipe here, who knows. If the McCree cinematic is what is used to push the overall story forward, then possibly my posited second cinematic would be used to introduce the new hero, which again would fit in with my ideas about Symmetra, Lucio and Sanjay, or Zenyatta and the Junker Queen, for instance. But then we could also look at if, with the potential TV series, expansion, etc., I think in that instance, McCree's cinematic would be used to introduce the new hero, and we'd have something else like Recall or the sparking of the flame of Talon to be what takes us into that new medium to explore the Overwatch story. So there's a bunch of different options that are all possible, like side swipes from Blizzard. They're obviously extras, but as they seem to be building up to something bigger than we might have expected, especially as they're not giving us a map, they must be giving us something to compensate for that, you'd imagine anyway. So let's look at something that's a bit more possible and understood, and the McCree cinematic. What do I see coming from the McCree cinematic, if it exists, which, yeah, okay, seems the most likely. I'm also going to be trying to use this in this example to work in the new hero. So to start off, I think the new cinematic will be called Deadlock, for obvious reasons, and some maybe not so immediately obvious ones. I imagine in that instance the outcome of the short will leave McCree in some kind of deadlock, stuck between like a rock and a hard place, if you will. But I think we'll see it told through his history with the Deadlock gang, Reyes pulling him out of it into Blackwatch, the fallout of Retribution and Overwatch disbanding. We could see how he loses his arm, whether that's important or not. Now, later, unsure. We then get to see McCree engage in his present conflict with whatever is happening at Route 66, likely involving some form of the reformed Deadlock gang, whatever was inside the payload, which I'm going to posit here as one of the power cores, or whatever it's called, that when McCree comes into contact with the Deadlock gang, he's either going to come into contact with their new leader, who is most likely the new hero. No, he's not actually. Who I think is most likely the new hero is their Talon contact. It makes much more sense for Talon to use the Deadlock gang to progress their own goals than the Deadlock gang to suddenly rise to prominence out of nowhere in the story. They're nowhere near as needed to develop the story going on, and they don't have anywhere near the kind of clout that Overwatch or Talon, or the Junkers, or the Iris, or the Omnics, or a bunch of other people have. So yeah, I don't think there's any need in bringing them up as a group. We could have a new hero from their new iteration, but I doubt that the group itself is going to move forward. So that's mainly why I think it's going to be their Talon contact that is going to be like the primary antagonist for this short. And if it is to introduce the new hero, then that antagonist, the Talon contact, will be the new hero, which to me makes it the most likely to be either Sanjay or Maximillien. And actually, I would argue out of those two, it makes much more sense for it to be Maximillien. Sanjay already has a very clear character conflict and goals and motivations in the world already, though even if we don't explore them anymore now, they are still relatively understood. Maximillien doesn't, really. We don't know exactly what his overall goals, etc. would be. But we also have who he would be coming into contact with. If Maximillien were to be the Talon contact present, when McCree shows up at the Deadlock Rebels hideout, knowing exactly who Maximillien is and the position that he holds, McCree and Maximillien would be able to enter into a relatively understandable conflict almost immediately from both their point of view and from ours. If Sanjay were to turn up at Route 66 now, McCree's not going to have any clue into what's going on, and then it expands Sanjay into at least two storylines when Maximillien doesn't have one. Maximillien at this point is also supposed to only be able to use the power of money. Theoretically, he could obviously have some further power, but yes, it seems that he has been getting by predominantly on the power of money, which suggests he makes use of others to achieve his goals, and how better to steal a power core from a train than to use a gang that disappeared several years ago and has reappeared and could always just disappear again. This kind of behaviour is also attributable to Sanjay, but by comparison he has far more fully understood motives, clearer subordinates, and more obvious access to existing high-end technology. As far as I'm concerned, all of this means that Maximillien just makes more sense as the antagonist of this short. So, yeah. I'm really hard pushing for Maximillien on this one, unless the short is more concerned with the overall story, which it would make the most sense for the Talon contact to be Reaper, so as to continue McCree and Reaper's direct storyline onwards from there, or possibly Sombra if the Reflections hint is anything. In my McCree video I do discuss several possible routes to use Sombra with McCree to push the story forward. They're all possible, and we have no solid evidence that any of them could even be a thing. But that is at least a consideration. But yes, if we are to be seeing the new hero, I think if it is associated with the McCree cinematic and the Route 66 map, the most likely candidate is Maximillien, who will be using the power core to power some kind of internalized device. He's an Omnic, he can just stick that thing right in his own body. And if it's anything compared to, say, at least the power that powers a mecha mech, that's an insane amount of energy. So it will allow him to exert new powers and abilities purely from his body. And I think that these powers will be based around magnetism. They've at least said before now that they have had ideas for a character that uses magnetism. I would imagine he has a magnetic coil within his arm that allows him to shoot coins from his fingertips like a railgun, allows him to catch enemy projectiles, allows him to create magnetic fields in areas, allows him to create electricity. There's a ton of ways you can take that power, and it would all make sense to come from an Omnic with no discernible further weaponry, etc. You could even, I've seen a lot of people say about Maximillien that he would look pretty stupid running around in a suit. I mean, Hanzo runs around in a suit if you've got the Scion skin, guys, so But could he float? I mean, if he's got internalized magnetism, yeah, he can just float. He can be, like, the clear antithesis to Zenyatta that maybe we need in the story. So, I derailed it a little to stop talking about McCree and try and talk about the new hero. Whatever happens in this short, it should either push McCree to rejoin Overwatch, set out on his own, or possibly even bring him into Talon. If you want to see much more about McCree's storyline and what can go on with him from here, then please feel free to check out my discussion video on the future of McCree. It's about half hour long, it's a lot to discuss, but hopefully you'll be able to see the far-reaching applications that a character like McCree has and what he can go through in the story, all told as we go forward. So, that's everything I have to say on the possible new cinematic at BlizzCon. Whether there will be any more, where it will take us in the story, whether it will be used to introduce a new hero, who the new hero is going to be. Let's go Team Maximillien. Let's super hope that it's Maximillien. I so hope I'm right now. I hope all of these ideas are pretty interesting for you. Hopefully the new cinematic at BlizzCon gives us all what we want. As I said, I'm Team Maximillien. If you're Team Sanjay or Team Deadlock Gang person, go you. Let's hope that they at least bring out something interesting that moves us forward. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll be doing a live reaction to the short on Friday when it comes out. Thank you very much again. I've been Euclidean Vision. You've been a sexy motherfucker. Take care of yourselves, and always remember to appreciate your best girl.